Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are premiering, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKiernan, Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Dal West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Another day in flat earth world, you guys, huh?
Good morning, gentlemen. Lovely crackly sounds.
Good afternoon, Nathan.
Back over here. I'm good over there, not over here.
Hello, Neil. Good to have you.
Nathan, my son is having a problem with his computer. I don't know what the freak to do.
Okay, I don't know what to do either. I'm sorry.
I feel terrible. I feel like a caveman. I'm telling him, Jacob, I don't do this. I do flaws. But I got my son-in-law in, and he got some program, and now they got to send him a text to find out when they locate what the problem is. He can't get on anything.
Ah, sorry to hear it.
Just
When I
wash
find
your
the proper
computer with soap and
terminology,
water.
I'll bring it to you.
Yeah, that's not good advice.
What do you say?
Oh,
You want to repeat it?
I said wash it with soap and water.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. When you had your situation, what was that thing that you had to buy, Nathan?
What situation?
When you had to get a new card or something because coffee got on it?
I don't think that was the
water.
fault. Actually, I don't think that was the problem. I think it was more that I was layering too many things up. So Meet, where you are now, what we call Google, doesn't like having other applications sat on top of it. So that's what I've been doing. I've been sitting Skype on a screen capture of a certain section of the screen, and that screen capture Skype was causing problems. It was causing things to flash when it was layered on top, which I did every show. And presumably as the cards got older and older and older, it's got less and then less able to do that. Because as it turns out, doing that is highly graphically demanding. I have no idea why, but it just is. Now, by coincidence, I only found that out when the new card did it, but I happened to be playing a game that I was also recording and streaming, and I'd got Skype layered up on top of Google. So in other words, with the new card being a lot more powerful, it only had that problem when I got a lot more going on. But it was the same exact problem, hence me looking into it after the fact, going, there's the problem I originally changed the card for. Well, it turns out, as I say, that's as a result of layering up different communication software, basically. You shouldn't do that.
Yeah, he shouldn't have that problem just playing Minecraft, right?
No, definitely not. I'm running a very complex show, so me having problems that are like that are obscure, that no one else is going to encounter ever. Who else is going to have two different voice servers running at the same time, communicating with each other, and layered on a screen capture that they happen to be running through OBS? Very few people indeed.
Got it.
My point is that me knowing the answers to complicated issues that I've spent months and months trying to figure out more leads you to the notion that I don't know what I'm doing rather than do, because it takes me a long time to figure things out. I don't know
I
what.
was talking to the guys in Discord, and I was asking them how they feel, because I think with all the evidence that we brought forward, that they're really just fighting against themselves. And I mean, how could you just stay in that situation that you're in? I mean, so what? Your whole worldview has changed. So what? They lied about everything. How can you stay there?
I don't know, but I found out the Audient preamp I use for my mic doesn't have a gain control. It has an attenuator, so it's like a volume control as opposed to a gain control, and it's not amplifying anything. It's taking away from the original signal, which means that its signal to noise is essentially at its best, at its highest. Well, conventional wisdom with preamps is you want to turn them down to get the best signal to noise by reducing the noise of the preamp by turning it down. Not true at all with this preamp. In fact, completely the opposite. So after listening to I'm not saying the engineers that have said this are wrong, because they're probably right with analog gear, but certainly with modern digital gear, what you're actually hearing, the noise you're hearing, is the noise of the DACs, which makes sense. But not knowing how a modern preamp works has meant I've listened to conventional wisdom and my training that I did at college in terms of audio engineering, and it's wrong. No, you only find this out when you watch some 20-year-old whippersnapper who's just been through college talking about exactly this and why you actually want to give your preamp more gain. So I've done exactly that. I've increased the gain where I was turning it down and down and down and down to get rid of noise. And that's introducing more noise. It's just like, oh, right. So while I'm trying to fix the problem, I'm going backwards. So I've had to spend the morning testing out stuff and doing, relearning what I've learned and going, okay, so I need to turn the volume, which is what it is. It's not a gain control on the preamp up. And just make sure it doesn't clip. In other words, the only thing to concern yourself with is it's not so high that it clips, which I probably will when I start yelling at somebody. Anyway, that aside, I should be as clear as I've ever been. Now, the fact that nobody's mentioned anything to do with my audio tends to suggest everyone's happy with it. You can hear me.
So you're saying you relearned everything. So I'm putting it to these ballers now. I think pride is in their way where they don't want to relearn everything. They will just continue to lie to themselves and fight.
Yeah, I'm talking about relearning an audio chain, because that's what I did at college when it was all analog, with the exception of some recording devices that technically were analog because they had analog inputs, but they were just recording on a digital medium like ADAT or minidisc or something. But ultimately, what I learned how to do was analog, and now it's not. The rules have all changed. And as much as I had a transitional period where I dealt with hi-fi, which was both, it didn't translate into a signal chain when you're recording something. So I didn't learn anything in that process. I learned how DACs worked. I've got a really good knowledge of how DAC works. But translating that into a DAC that's in a preamp for a mic, it just defies the conventions that I learned when I was at college. Anyway, enough of this. We're probably boring the pants off a lot of people listening.
So wait, I got something out of that. You're not staying in analog. You're moving forward. These ballers are staying in analog.
Yeah, maybe that's the way. If things do develop and the heliocentric model dies on its arse because people stop accepting it. But we're working under that assumption that may actually be the case at some point, as opposed to a wave of flat Earth just to keep the rhetoric of ridicule alive and kicking, kill it off, and then rebirth it again 10 years later.
Yeah, but what would they do with NASA? It's so much money involved. How would they tie that in? I don't think they're going to let it go.
Well, they can't, can they? So, yeah, that poses a big problem. I mean, I just think that the rhetoric of the worldview of heliocentrism's, it's not going to quickly change.
So you're saying they got time that they can buy?
What's the timer for? When you say time, what's the timer? When you forget about NASA, for us, is there a timer?
I think we're putting a lot of heat on them.
Are we? I don't care. I don't care what NASA do.
No, I mean in the heliocentric belief in general. I think flat Earth is a lot bigger than what everybody thinks. Yeah, we're in a little small corner of the internet, but let me tell you something. When you look at chats with these heliocentric shows, they're constantly mocking them. There's a lot more people that have moved away from what they were taught.
Maybe. Either way, I don't see that there's a timer in terms of I've got to achieve something by some certain time. You know, the subject's brought me a lot of joy. It's also brought me a lot of misery. And now that misery is being reflected back onto our opponents who, as I've described over the last couple of weeks, are in the same pond as us. Well, their misery of uncertainty was the same as ours when we were in the same boat. The only difference is they're hoping for a different outcome. They're hoping the Earth will actually turn out to be spherical when they're in these times of uncertainty in this little pond fighting with us, believing that they've got the Western world behind them when they haven't. They're developing their own little rhetoric. So when they face the inevitable, they might try and run away from it like cats. They might have a nervous breakdown because they've spent so long fighting for the ball. They might accept the inevitability of the flat Earth they're facing, and therefore the possibility of other lies that they might have to contemplate. Again, Katz was the one who described that exact process of mental events. But we weren't hoping for the outcome that it would turn out to be a globe. And we weren't miserable as sin while we were here. The entire time I've described my eyes being open to the world that I actually live in and how joyful that is. The world of wonderment, like childlike wonderment that you have if you're a flat earther like me. Well, the anti-flat earthers, they're living in hell. You know, they're miserable. We saw it in Jem Panda when he came out to tell the flat earthers that they were wrong based on physical geometric horizons not bending one way or the other. That's got to be painful, right?
I think that's why he was there. I think he needed some pain relief. What do you do when you're in pain? If you hit your finger with a hammer, you yell. He's in pain. He's out there yelling. You're liars.
Another thing you do is you punch the other person next to you. For example,
that's a good example because of the toxicity that I get told is in places like Jem Panda's server. Very toxic places with infighting and bullying.
So let's give a salient example from what just happened in the fallout of John going on McToon's channel. So McToon published the event under a title. Later on, he changed the title to Flurfer fails to do what he agreed to do. Even though we outlined from John's own admission in Reddit what he actually agreed to do, McToon co-opted a different what he agreed to do, meaning to get the position fixed, which John never agreed to. So supplement to this alteration in his presentation of what this stream was, right, which was John failing to meet his agreement, according to McToon. He made an even shorter video, which I should encourage everyone to go watch right now who's present. It's only 2.5 minutes on McToon's channel, called basically, I don't know the exact title off the top of my head, but it's basically proven that John lied about his credentials of engineering. Okay. So,
Wow.
in the normal world, that might be considered slander. So let's discuss how he proved that John lied, and you'll see the problem very quickly. So throughout the whole thing, they were talking about curved line angles, right? Getting angles between curved lines, right? Towards the end, I asked a pertinent question, which I got an answer, but it wasn't answered properly when he was discussing it with John in the beginning. So what the example was is McToon held up two squiggly lines that he drew on a piece of paper, right? And when I'm done talking, I'm going to post the pictures. So he drew two squiggly lines, and he asked John in a hurried manner, right, in the middle of Ruhif talking, which, is fog of war tactic, shotgun, well, not shotgun, but you know what I'm saying. Can you get an angle between these curved lines? And he just wanted a quick rattle yes or no. John attempted to caveat the situation by saying, just from those lines, no, you cannot. And, McToon's in the background still being like, yeah, I want an answer. I need a yes or no. My mom's dying, right? It's such a crisis that you must answer so fast. But John's trying to parse it out, right, intelligibly. So he says, no, you can't just get an angle from those curved lines. You have to make a vertex and two lines that intersected at some point, right? And then with those lines, you could get an angle from the straight lines that you've placed. Now, obviously, John is being accurate to the situation, okay? McToon's answer, right, was, yes, you can. So you're wrong. To which Ruhif then replied, didn't you say you were an engineer or you had a degree or something? To which John then said, I'm a something technician. And then Ruhif's like, does that require engineering degree? John is like, I have a dual bachelor's in mechanical engineering and electrical engineering, right? To which McToon, right, the divine chief that knows the intents and purposes of the heart of whether someone's being dishonest or not, decided to say, okay, hold on, sucker. You just told me that I can't get an angle between these two curved lines, even though that's not exactly what John said, right? So therefore, since I know that to get an engineering degree, you need to do calculus, and some of the first parts of calculus is getting angles, right, from curves by doing this and that method. Therefore, you're lying about your engineering degree. Now, I want you to hold that in your mind and fast forward to the debate an hour or so later or whatever it was, when he was asked to present the proof of the curved lines. So what he did is he took that same squiggly line picture that he drew, okay? He drew a cross, right, a vertex, where two of the lines, which are perfectly straight, intersected the curve at points. Now, if you've been following what I've been saying, you might notice that that's what John said. McToon drew it out and then got an angle between the two straight lines, exactly as John described. Now, somehow in McToon's little world, this means that he needs to make a video and change the title, right, to proven this guy lied about his engineering degree because me, McToon, is too stupid to realize that I proved that John actually was correct by drawing out and doing exactly what John said needed to be done, because I was too busy over talking him and demanding a frenetic pace. Just so that I could, at the end, say, not only is John a liar, but all flat earthers are liars, and lying is required to be a flurf. Much like our dear friend, Mr. Answers in Genesis himself, who also wrote that flirts are generally liars, and went on McToon's show so they could both have a chuckle at people who believe in the flat earth's expense and be like, oh, what a bunch of retards. The greatest Christian thing to do is to get on a show together and laugh at the expense of other humans who believe a proposition different than us and castigate them as liars with a broad brush fallacy. All right, I yield the floor.
No, good rant.
Yeah, I was just going to say, didn't John say that in the beginning? Yeah, he robbed them.
Well, as watching it live, everything AI just said is true. That's exactly what I saw. He just summarized it perfectly.
Very well done. Something I watched last night, McToon's little attack vid. I'm not sure what his point is about calculus.
It's just a glorified ad hom. Not we won because we showed how elevation angle measurements can be taken from a curved surface. No, this guy's not got an engineering degree, according to me, because he represented an answer to a question which I later confirmed and used my confirmation and his affirmation of what I drew to be a reason for discrediting him as having a degree. Where's the elevation angle measurement from the curved baseline? That's your video. An ad hom.
You can't be discussing elevation angles, Nathan. It's a neutral outcome platform. Couldn't allow that topic to come in there. AI, there was one bit And I need to go back. Will you just recap what he said in terms of straight lines and you do calculus? They know what they're on about.
Oh, what was it? Were you asking me a question? Sorry.
Yeah, well, just what was the bit they said about? You've obviously got wicked recall from that. It was a beautiful summary.
They were trying to get him in a gotcha where they presented some squiggly lines and said, "Can I get an angle between these curved lines?" Right? Just demanding a yes or no without the proper caveats that you must construct a vertex with two straight lines that intersect the curve at some point, and you're actually technically only getting an angle to the intersections where the straight lines pass. Correct? So you're really not getting an angle in total to the curve, because if you were given that angle between those curved lines and you had only that angle, you would not be able to divine how much the other parts of the line are squiggly. You would need the plot points of the entire squiggle from front to back, to which you would have to create vertices and intersections at every single point of the curve, right? Which is exactly what John explained. So it wasn't as simple as McToon was trying to make it seem. He just wanted a gotcha where if John had the credentials he claimed, he would say yes. And then he would say, haha, you can get, a curved baseline angle, blah, 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 blah. Very clever ruse to try to get him to be, trapped rather than parse it out like you need to parse it out. So very disingenuous tactic by Mr. McToon. And then putting it in a video, 2.5 minutes, saying John blatantly lied about his credentials, even though he parsed out the solution exactly, as me and Nathan just both reiterated, by demonstrating it to be so by McToon himself later on in the debate in the question and answer section, proving that exactly the way John said it is exactly what he needed to do to get the angle that he claimed he could get. So dude is back and forth, a retard. He probably should, drink a oolong tea before he has a debate, and lay off the caffeine, and maybe he could think straight. But then again, fair enough. Maybe it's just bloodlust. Maybe he just wants, to castigate flat earthers as liars, kind of like Danny Faulkner, because it makes it easier to beat up on a nigger when he's black and lying, right? Because flat earthers are the new group that you're allowed to hate. And that's what it's all about.
I prefer
a lot
gingers.
of people are in this arena.
Just for future reference, I'm sorry to interrupt. So niggers is a good comparison because you've caveated it and said, look, back in the past, the black community got racially prejudiced with words like nigger. Now, flat earther is synonymous with nigger because we're now prejudiced in the way they used to be. So it's a good caveat. But when I do it, I prefer to use gingers just because it's less,
Fair.
It makes the same point.
Oh, you guys, see, I keep forgetting that I'm from the future where we're over words.
Yeah, well, no, but people aren't. There's plenty of people, PC or otherwise, that won't like the word nigger being used at all. Me, I use it in jest. I claim I am a nigger, you're my nigger, etc., because I'm black and I can get away with it. But a lot of people can't. You're not black, you can't get away with it. It's really just our word. So just so long as you know that.
John Lennon said woman is the nigger of the world.
You're right as well. They keep throwing these pictures of theodolites up working from a flat horizon base level. That's not showing how they acquire a bloody elevation angle from a curved surface. It was just totally irrelevant what they was showing.
Right,
Well, there's more to it.
Just 1 second, Ted. Just 1 second. I'm really sorry. Everyone, stop.
If you bust out a liar...
Just 1 second. Before we move on, Adam asked you to re-summarise your point so he could follow on from it, and he hasn't yet.
So the point I'm hearing is that we've got these two squiggly lines at a point of intersection. And the reason that John should recognise them as an angle is because he's got a bachelor's degree and he did calculus. I'd like them to explain that logic. That's what doesn't add up to me. Yeah? What's calculus got to do with its differentiation, integration, whatever, to do with this determination of turning straight lines, curvy lines into straight lines, so you could redefine the integer as an angle? It's a nonsensical response that I don't think John picked up on under the pressure, but it was just wiffle waffle. to make out he was lying. But my point is, the statement they make demonstrates they don't know what they're on about. Unless I'm missing something. Could be. But...
Good morning, guys.
Well, I mean, yes.
They've used the proto fallacy. That's what they did.
It was just a trap of a question. That's all. I mean, basically.
It's also totally scummy. The guy's a guest. John's a guest on their show. And their chosen way of treating their guests is to attack them personally. Now, if you want to say, all right, you've attacked plenty of people personally, like, who was the guy you mentioned earlier? Answers in Genesis guy? Forgotten his name.
Faulkner.
Danny.
We specifically attacked Danny Faulkner, not for his Christianity. Now, there might be other flat earthers that have, not us. We attack him for his arguments. And then if we're going to call him stupid, it's based on something he has stated within his argument. Don't just go out attacking his credentials, especially not if you came on as an invited guest. You know, they've invited John on as a guest, based on him saying, I'll go anywhere you like, and here's my caveats, which have been completely ignored and fulfilled, I might add. He did exactly as he said he would. Didn't agree to do any challenge. We read out his comments yesterday that they're lying about. Spin doctors. And the best spin doctory they can get out of their entire debate is that he's lying about his credentials. No, he's not. But even if he was, it wouldn't make any difference to the argument in terms of elevation angle measurement acquisition that you can't do on a globe Earth.
I mean, John's not claiming to be a ball earth. He's got a degree in ball earth, or he's got a degree in the job he does, yeah, which he just mentions in the side. He doesn't use it to supplement his credentials to make his argument better. His argument stands alone. The job he does, the credentials he's got, he doesn't boast about them. He doesn't use them. They've just decided that it's fake on some arbitrary thing that, like I said, they need to clarify why they think making the statement stood precludes him from having the degrees he's said he's got.
No, not the degrees. The argument that he's put forward.
Yeah. Well, that's the wholly inappropriate bit. Just to invite somebody in, not proof, not we've looked up and found out who you are and you're lying. Just go, oh, there's a bit of a made-up maths problem. You can't answer it. You're a liar. And to attack somebody like that, it's just like, who's ever going to go back to it?
But
why would you ever go there unless they are going to pay us? You know?
Exactly.
Are we pieces of shit? Acting like pieces of shit?
Oh, there's two people talking at once. Hold on. Whoever it is in Discord, just hold on 1 second. Go ahead, Chocolate.
No, I was just saying, are we surprised that pieces of shit acted like pieces of shit?
Exactly. Yeah, they're pieces of shit.
Anything else, really?
Nope. That's why none of us went, unless they're prepared to pay us £5,000 to sit there and be insulted. And that's what we said all along. Why we're not doing it. By Brian, me. I think Nathan's got a lower. Mitchell's got a price, yeah. But it's never going to happen because we said all it would happen is it would turn into an ad hom insult, which we're happy to do. You want to pay me £5,000 for an hour or so? I'll come then. You can throw as many insults, accusations, unfounded as they are, at me for the £5,000, and then I'll go. But I don't think any of us will ever go again if that's how they treat their guests.
Exactly. It's a good demonstration of what they tell you with a bait and switch is going to be a neutral platform. No, neutral outcome for them is all that you can best hope for if you're going to take what they say as read. It isn't neutral. When the moderator's saying, you've got to fulfill my moderator's challenge, how moderate of you? Go ahead, abstrused, or however you say it. Go ahead. You're off. You're at the moment. You're just causing audio chaos. Then, if you don't add anything abstrused.
Oh, my bad.
I posted.
I would like to know which sextant mirror is observed the squiggly line that they're talking about the angle.
Oh, it was nonsense, George. In that regard, you're right. They're not. Go ahead. Who was it in G Plus that time?
That was me, Brian.
Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, everyone. No, I just posted a video that Bev posted up yesterday of a conversation he had with Ruhif about 5 or 6 days ago. And Ruhif admits in this conversation that John has not, because Bev, in fairness, holds him to it. And has John agreed to do this McToon challenge? No. Ruhif put it that John has been awkward about saying he's going to do it or something like that. But Ruhif admits John never admitted to doing this challenge. Ruhif admits that because Bev gets it out of him. And funnily enough, Bev doesn't know celestial navigation. He gets a lot of stuff wrong. But because he knows geometry, there were certain things that Ruhif was talking about to do with part of the whole angle and circle of equal altitude process that Bev was holding him on. Because he was claiming something, and Bev was saying, but you can't claim that, that's not correct, you can't do this geometrically, you can't do that. You know, and so Ruhif was trying to get his rubbish past Bev. But because Bev is geometry all the time, Euclidean geometry, Bev wasn't leaving him off of it. So...
Right. And I've got a bit here. You're attacked in it as well in terms of the way... Just to keep... Before we go to Bev, I just want to read these notes from Glenn this morning because it's to do with the way they twist stuff. So this morning I've got... This is from Glenn. The post-mortem show this morning was glorious. Damn, Brian is a moron. Would you like to see how many times I clarified the topic of the debate with John? So I responded with no. Just show me the one where he agreed. The response. Lol. So he agreed to a debate where the topic was clarified with him half a dozen times and he asked me to set up that debate, and that's not an argument in your book. Got a lighter flirt as usual. Even Brian called it dishonest. So you can see where they're going now. I'm going to keep denying. Even though I asked, just show me the one where John agreed. He's not giving me that. Can't. Because he was not there. But they're just now going to go on this false narrative that will supposedly justify their actions from the other night and how they treated John, yeah, in their neutral outcome format. Yeah, and that's what they've got now. Because what they can't do.
Sorry, so the post.
Brian just asked.
So the post-debate discussion is whether or not the guest on their show agreed to do the moderator's challenge, because obviously the moderator needs to be laying down challenges when somebody offers themselves up to debate about the nature of the existence of a globe Earth that we aren't standing on, we measure it flat. Now, because he didn't agree to their terms that they demanded over and over again after taking up John's kind offer, they're saying that he's a liar. No, they're liars. They're projecting out their lies rather than actually taking a post-mortem of their win when it came to the elevation angle that they needed to make their challenge even possible, which John pointed out to them. So no dissection of their loss. What about that elevation angle argument that John put to you about you requiring a flat Earth when you did an admirable job of using flat Earth elevation angle measurements to find a fix? Ruhif did a good job as a flat Earther. But what, they're going to dissect whether or not he's honest? No dissection of their win, then. Where's the dissection of their win in the debate? They didn't win. John did, when he pointed out that Ruhif measured a flat plane. He had to, because he was measuring elevation angle measurements. They require a flat Earth. So Ruhif did a good job of proving Earth is flat. So let's discuss the honesty of our guest who kindly came and gave us his time.
What Brian said yesterday, and just literally at the end of the show, a really pertinent point was, where are they? They've just had this glorious victory. Surely they should have been flooding into Discord to gloat over it, over their victory. Where are they? Where is their victory? Because all they seem to be talking about now is John's credentials. What was agreed, not what was demonstrated on the show.
You don't see that that's their victory? That's their little victory dance that they're doing. They never had an argument, and they know that from jump. This was a setup just to get another flat earther to look stupid. That's all they have now. It's pathetic.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now, we are joined by Refracted Curvature, Chocolate Sane, Arwin, 10th Man, The Adam Meakin, Brian's Logic, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Hello, hello.
Good afternoon.
Yo, yo.
Good afternoon.
Good morning.
Hey, Matt.
Good morning, good morning.
Wow, super enthusiasm levels. Excellent stuff. Let's do a bit of housekeeping. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Are you serious?
They no longer expect
question.
to be seeing that.
Just a clarifying question. Would that be the visible one or the non-visible one?
Are you asking me as the person prefacing the argument for somebody else who's going to answer it, or as a flat earther, normal, real person that only has one horizon in their life?
The latter.
There's only one horizon. The horizon in the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator is a physical limitation to your view as depicted on screen. It's claimed to block boats and buildings when you project it out into Muppet vision where you see the side of your own head, as opposed to seeing what you actually see with your eyeballs, removing all aspects of perspective. However, the obstruction at that limitation tangent point is Earth curve. That's their horizon. Debunked by the Black Swan, someone whispered it earlier. If we had a physical limitation to our view called Earth curve, it would be at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and we have imagery that shows the horizon beyond that geometric limitation claimed to be Earth curve. Ergo, the horizon is not Earth curve. We only have one horizon. It's not Earth curve.
Well, according to Ruhif, this geometric location does exist, and he proves it by using 7/6, or as his dip correction within his presentation. But unfortunately for Ruhif, right, what he doesn't understand is that, or maybe he does understand and he's equivocating between the old original and the current dip correction definitions, is that after you do the dip correction he did, when he invoked the geometric horizon, that he has zero evidence for and doesn't exist, and is only a consequence of the fact that their radius value comes from flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris. Ruhif, after he invoked that nonsense that doesn't exist, he forgot to do height of eye correction. Ruhif, you moron.
Yeah, further to that, he'll need an R value to assert that the reason we don't see something that does physically exist in Muppet vision as depicted on screen on top of Simon Dan's head when he addressed the same exact problem back in 2020. To assert that we don't have an Earth curve blocking boats and buildings, we have a refracted, non-geometric position at a rate of 7/6 of a radius value that you can no longer measure because you can't obtain the geometry anymore if it's all refracted. Meanwhile, we've only got one horizon, and their assertion leads you to having two horizons. If you're saying the geometric horizon really does exist, it's refracted into a non-geometric position, well, that means we've got a geometric horizon and a non-geometric horizon, as depicted on screen. That's two horizons. The geometric, formerly known as Earth curve horizon, and a refracted won't be blocking boats and buildings horizon at a rate of 7/6R when depicted in orthographic view with the side of your own head visible. So on the right-hand side of this image, you've got your own head in shot to assert that the line that you're seeing curves around a predisposed R-value-based radius of a sphere Earth at a rate that light will bend because it's moving through sphere-shaped air. Now, air doesn't take the shape of a sphere in atmo, that's air, sphere, but they assume it does because they assume Earth's a sphere and the air around it is sphere-shaped. Therefore, when put into Muppet vision and excluding all perspective, you have a bent line of sight to the thing you're seeing. Well, lines of sight are straight, but their line of sight in Muppet vision is now bent at a radius value that they haven't got any way of measuring anymore. Is there any evidence of the R value that he's assuming when he bends the light at a rate in Muppet vision of 7/6R, aka terrestrial refraction?
No, they have to back the question.
Objection. They have more than 2 horizons. Can you go to Master Read, please?
Okay, starting with figure 19.9.
Yes. So you see here, see if you can follow along what I'm saying here. You see here a ship on a presupposed surface of a globe at sea. And you see a horizontal reference plane. Then you see light ray coming from body, obviously to the eye of the observer with the sextant. And then you see a visible horizon depicted as part of that curve as a tangent line touching at that one point, the curved surface. There's so many things wrong with this picture, but the first one I want you to realize is going to be after you answer this question. Does an operator of a sextant on a ship pull out a plumb bob and establish a horizontal reference plane before he pulls out the sextant and shoots the star?
Is that rhetorical? No, just pulls out a sextant.
Yeah, they pull out sextant. But here they've got a horizontal reference plane as if they pulled out a plumb bob and know what that is before they do the sextant. Where did they get this from? This activity, this straight line through the observer's eye horizontally is never happening. This is a fictitious line. They don't pull out a plumb bob.
Wouldn't the plumb bob be establishing vertical, though?
Well, the vertical gives you horizontal immediately because it must be perpendicular. So that's why in the bubble sextant and the artificial horizon and the theodolite that's level with leveling devices, or even the plumb bob hung underneath the theodolite, once you establish vertical, then you already got horizontal.
Sorry, who presented this to you? Where's this from?
Well, I'll get it for you. Let me finish. I mean, I've got all these things cited and everything else. Don't worry about it.
Well, I just wanted to, just while you've got it up, I'm sorry, I know you've got a flow that you want to keep to, but on this, you've got bottom line with dip, and it says, quote, visible horizon, correct?
Right.
Shout out to Shatner's bassoon. It's a shout out street team in Leeds today. Will do. I will do that exact thing, Shatner's bassoon. Thank you for the super chat. Okay, so according to this, from the ship to a dip that's going to be corrected, you've got the word visible horizon. Okay. No, according to them, that is not the case. Let me bring up Simon Dan. He's my citation in this regard. Simon Dan says no. Simon Dan and Ruhif say no. And everybody else who's challenged the claims of the Black Swan also say no. They say there's a bent line to a non-geometric horizon. On this diagram made by AB Science, Simon Dan's head was superimposed by me. It says location of apparent horizon. That means the one that appears to you, the one you can see. And then the one with a straight line to it is the horizon that they have made explicitly clear that we do not see. That's the geometric horizon. Remember, we discussed it, Chocolate summarised it earlier. Now let's go back to this diagram that you're now going to discuss in terms of how they do their correction from the visible horizon with a straight line to it. Well, no. The one with a straight line to it is the geometric horizon you all sacrificed along with Simon Dan when you told us the line to the horizon's bent. So you don't have a straight line to a visible horizon to do this dip correction. Because the line to your horizon on a globe Earth is bent at a rate of 7/6R. It's not a straight line to do a dip correction with. You haven't got a geometric horizon. That's Earth curve. Anymore. You gave up your geometry. You bent the line to this quote-unquote visible horizon. Not anymore. You may continue with this, which is probably being undermined by me severely, but I'm sorry.
No, that's the other point you can draw, which you did, because obviously Black Swan destroys, and you just destroyed with the Black Swan argument. Okay, so what I'm trying to say here is that on that debate with John, Refracted Curvature, they kept wanting to use this horizontal reference plane by saying you can get an angle to a baseline without using the Earth. You can have that horizontal, which is what they mean when they say baseline without using the Earth. So, like this reference plane is seen here. Okay, at sea, using the Mariner sextant, when is this ever done? I have never read in any part of, from start to finish, that you must establish a horizontal reference plane before you use the sextant. You see the trickery here. Now let's move on. This will all make sense. Next one.
Before you do, I'm sorry. I just want to give 10th Man a few props. When he says all the stuff he's read, he's probably spent, I'm going to say $2,000, but it's probably closer to 5, on Mariner's books about the sextant and celestial navigation in general. And it's a huge sum of money. I don't have that kind of money to spend on anything ever. But over the course, since 10th Man aired this argument publicly, more in the pre-shows as we were building up over the 12 months, it started to build. And then when it was finally, out there in a full, concise way, between those two times, 10th hasn't just sort of gone, right, here's my argument. He's gone out and spent an absolute shed ton on books. So, this has been an expensive endeavour. So I just want to highlight that, because you're like, when in all the stuff I've ever read, what he means by that is a stack of books about 3 feet high that's cost thousands, and I'm not even joking. Anyway, I just wanted to say that because I know you've put a lot of money into this.
It's well over 5. It's well over 5G, and it's because I bought a German-made sextant, an A10 bubble sextant, a box sextant, an artificial horizon rather than using a pan, other paraphernalia, and the books, and the hours and hours of research. And I probably put in minimum an hour a day on it. And I watched so many of the videos that I've watched already 10 times. And like everyone knows, when you get familiar with the material, then you wait a minute, based on what I saw later, that contradicts this thing that I saw earlier that I didn't know what they meant by it. You see, this has been a journey for me. And the longer I'm on it, the more it pops out. And like I said, all of the books that I got are globe books. They use the sextant, an angle measuring device, and an angle is 2 straight lines that meet at a common point called a vertex. They use the globe books and that tool and try to tell us we live on a ball. No book have I bought as a flat earth celestial sextant instruction book, not one. So when Ruhif said on the show, oh, look, here's 10th Man, and then they play a recording of me saying I bought 4 copies of the Practical Navigator by Nathaniel Bowditch. It's because I wanted to see what the earliest version said versus the newer version. I even downloaded the original one on PDF and combed through that. But never did I say that those books weren't ball-related books or showed the audience who had the books that we live on a ball. It was always from that point of view. What I wanted to point out is the contradictions I find in those books that reveal that we don't live on a ball. And so what they did on the show was play that recording on your show of me saying about Nathaniel Bowditch, and it's a good resource. And then Ruhif, instead of showing the contradiction that I showed on your show, went to his own pages of that book and posted that on the debate rather than keeping it in context. See, I'm finding the contradictions. There is no flat earth navigation book as of yet. But guess what? You need a flat earth to do it.
So shockingly, he didn't address
but they'll
this.
say you never went out on a ship. You were never lost on a ship.
So shockingly, he didn't address the citations you did specifically cite from those books. He cherry-picked some new ones to attack instead. How shocking.
Correct. All right, so next
objection.
Okay.
Hold on.
we'll start again. Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
I just wanted to object because when he said he was going to use a vertical without referencing the earth, vertical implicitly references the earth. That's why I asked him, why don't you drop your plumb bob in free space? Have to be on earth to reference a vertical.
Yes, we'll get into that. That was a good point you brought up. But
Okay,
eventually we'll finish this.
Carry on, Ted. We're halfway through a presentation. I'm sorry, we've all rumpused it. Go ahead.
It's all right. All right, just go back to the original picture and I'll just summarize and move on.
Okay.
Okay, I got to go back there myself. All right, so this illustration of a ship with a sextant operator above sea level getting a horizontal reference plane, that never happens. You can just get rid of that horizontal reference plane. He doesn't have that at his disposal. He doesn't hang a plumb bob to figure it out. He has to use the star and the horizon. Okay, now, next slide. Next slide shows similar. The observer eye would be the same as on the ship. It's above the surface of the earth, and it's called a sensible horizon. And then you've got the dip to the actual visual horizon. On this picture, they don't even show it touching at all the earth. And then they've got the geometrical horizon, and that is refracted and touching the earth. Interesting. Next slide. On this slide, you have the observer's eye again above the surface of the earth, and it's labeled sensible horizon. Where's that line going? Where's that sensible horizon, horizontal reference line going?
When you say where's it going, it's parallel with the geoidal claim to be horizon, and it's
but in the celestial sphere model, that's going to the extending all the way to the celestial sphere.
Right. If you were to draw out what you had in terms of the angle measurements from the sensible horizon at your eye line, then you'd have the half of the celestial sphere above you.
Correct.
It's going to infinity.
Correct. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian.
That one's a mess, Tim. Because the visible, the geometric, and then that bendy red line all meet the eye at the same point.
Hold on, we're not there yet. Go on, 10th.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
Okay.
I'm back. Sorry.
Okay. So now you've got the sensible horizon, which they say must parallel to geoidal. Now, what's the geoidal? That's where your eye is on the water. When you do dip correction, bring your eye on the water, and your eye becomes the tangent point of that parallel line. Now, is that matching the sensible? Absolutely. What must these two match for everything of theirs to work? The third, the equatorial plane, the celestial horizon, the equinoctial. It extends after the Earth's surface when it penetrates through it all the way to the celestial sphere. So you've got three horizons here. And the center one is what? Got a box there with 4 quarters of that circle, all 90s, as Brian showed before. Next slide. Here we got the surface of the Earth, the geographical horizon, which obviously their geometry doesn't match. And then the visible horizon, again, not touching the surface of the Earth. I don't know why, but it's not. And then the dip, and then the sensible, again, that the observer on an ocean with a sextant never has ever. The observer, if he had that sensible horizon, then voila, no dip correction needed. Why would he do it at sea? See, this counterintuitive here, because at sea, when you use the actual horizon, you must do dip. Well, if he's already got the sensible horizon, he doesn't need dip. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes. In other words, if it's established a horizontal baseline, what's the point in doing dip? You're only doing dip to correct it to be a horizontal baseline.
Correct. Okay, so move on. So if we pull out some definitions, was it Ruth who said definitions don't mean anything?
He said the effing definitions of words are meaningless.
Okay, well, that's what they don't want to go to. But in this book of astronomy by Norman Lockyer, and look at his credentials: Fellow of the Royal Astronomical Society, Editor of Nature, revised, specially adapted to the schools of the United States. This has made its way across the pond. What's he say? Like, next slide. The sensible horizon, on all sides of us, we see a circle of land or sea, or both, on which the sky seems to rest. This is called the sensible horizon. If we observe it from a little boat on the sea or from a plane, this circle is small. But if we look out from the top of a ship's mast or from a hill, we find it greatly enlarged. In fact, the higher we go, the more is the horizon extended, always, however, retaining its circular form. Now, the sphere is the only figure which, looked at from any external point, is bounded by a circle, and as the horizons of all places are circular, the Earth is a sphere, and nearly so. I don't know how he gets that logic, because I could stand over a flat surface after having my eye on the flat surface and not seeing much, and as I stand on the flat surface, I see more of the flat surface, so this is a joke. But notice what he shows the sensible horizon touching as you go higher. The surface. They have it as a horizontal line going out to space. What's wrong? Am I missing something?
Yeah, no, you're not. We only have one horizon. You're not missing anything.
Right. So all those depictions of it being horizontal from the eye of the observer and going to the celestial sphere, when in the astronomy, the definition is, no, you got higher up and you have a different angle of it looking at the horizon where the sky meets the Earth, the apparent position. It's never straight. You don't see it straight here. How come he doesn't have it as a horizontal? How come he has it always? So the sensible horizon is the visual horizon, but at a higher level looking down at it. But they got it as a horizontal line.
Yeah, because you need it to be horizontal. That's the basis of the navigation methodology. So that's why they've got three. Let's just bring it back up. They've got three horizontals in the case of the blue ball with the center marked, Earth, figure 1, 2. Like, yeah, you've got lots of horizontals. You're going to transpose what's down into the center of a protractor and call it a globe Earth, but you're still dealing with horizontal, geoidal, celestial, sensible. Yeah, they're all horizontal, because that's how the maps are going to work. That's how you're going to plot your position with triangles. They haven't got curved bases. They're triangles.
Now,
sorry.
Well, no, I was going to say.
The sensible horizon would have to be the visual horizon, because if it wasn't, it wouldn't be a horizon.
Right. No, this is my point with this drawing in this book. He's got the sensible horizon on a plane at mid-height and at the summit of a mountain. And as you go higher, you see more. It's obvious. You do that on a flat surface as well. If you went to the salt flats and you put your eye to the ground of the salt, it's called salt flats, so pretty large area that's flat. If you get as low as you can, how far do you see? Where's the horizon hit you? Where the sky hits that salt flats to your eye, if you're 1 inch above it. Well, it's going to be closer. That's like of the plane here in this picture. Well, let's say you stand up. Well, that one might be mid-height. Let's say you jump on top of the van that you drove there. That would be the summit of the mountain. The higher you go, the more of the salt flats you're going to see. But we know salt flats are flat. What they did is draw this circle underneath and said it's this cone of vision. But I get that same cone of vision on the salt flats. Why does the Earth have to curve?
That's the good point. Can I read it? Now,
yeah,
the
go ahead.
sphere is the only figure which, looked at from any external point, is bounded by a circle. And that's interesting, because that's true. But of course, the observer isn't looking at the
Oh, wow. Sorry, Penny's just dropped as Adam reads it back. Didn't drop when 10th read it, drop now. So what they're disclaiming is you must have an external view. What's another word, Muppet Vision, for having an external view?
Orthographic view.
Orthographic view. seeing the side of your own head. Here we have on screen. I'm just going to pause this and move to a different slide. You guys have got it in G+ already. Let's just do this. Okay, so on screen for the audience now, we've got two different representations of reality. One is the only representation the globe Earth will ever give you, because it's the only representation they can give you. It excludes perspective. It includes the side of your own head when making an observation. This is not how you see the world. This is not a horizon. This is a straight line to a tangent point. That would be a geometric Earth curve edge that they've bent. Just thought I'd drop that in there. They haven't got this anymore. This is old and dusty Earth curve with a geometric limitation, hill in the way. Now we've got bent lines. But we'll put that to one side for a moment. This is Muppet vision, fondly named by us, meaning you can see the side of your own head, but actually known as orthographic view. Now, a target in orthographic view, if I put a building on the other side of this circle, I can ascribe a feet and inches value to the target. I can say a 100-foot building is on the other side of this Earth curve obstruction, geometric in nature. But a 100-foot building on this side, let's call it 5,000 miles away on a globe Earth, doesn't change in size regardless of how far away it is or how far round the curve they say it is. The only reason it gets obscured, the 100-foot building, is because Earth curve gets in the way. Now, in reality, if you'd got 5,000 miles between your actual view, now we're going to move to the right-hand side of the image, do you think you'd see a building in this mist at the horizon at 5,000 miles? No, the angular size, that's the perspective that you actually get in your reality, would be too small. You wouldn't see a 5,000 mile distance with a 100-foot building. And you wouldn't describe it that way in physical reality either. You describe it as an angle, because that's what you're seeing. It reduces with distance, not an orthographic view. 100-foot building is 100-foot. If I put the 100-foot building on the far right-hand side of the page and say it's 20,000 miles away, well, it's still a 100-foot building. But that's how their maths works. They exclude and remove and hijack the effects of perspective to call them Earth curve in geometric terms until you demonstrate that that isn't possibly the case with the black swan argument. Then they bend the line, giving them no means of doing the geometry when they start claiming that they're going to do dip correction from a visible horizon that we cannot see. Here's that on screen. The visible geometric horizon they say we can't see with a straight line to it, aka now refracted according to Ruhif with 7/6 of a radius in Muppet vision. They don't have this straight line to do dip correction. This visible horizon is not visible to do dip correction with. They're correcting from a non-visible horizon that they manifest when they claim they're doing dip correction. Beautifully summarised by Ruhif, by Hoymar, different opponents, when he was grilled by Adam and QE. But they're manifesting a non-visible horizon. Well, here it is in the books. Needs to be visible to correct from it. You don't have a horizontal line. You're not dropping out plumb lines and getting 90 degrees to them because you wouldn't need to do a dip correction. Anyway,
there's more switcheroo than that.
A lot more.
Yeah, just let me read it again. Now, the sphere is the only figure which looked at from an external point, which is what we're saying orthography, is bounded by a circle. Now, if you try to draw it off, that again is false, okay, in the sense. So what they've done here is to support the statement is they've reified the horizon as their leading geometric. So to draw your circles in, they're saying that it's going to create, but these are circles of vision. So whether the plane is plane, a proper plane, or whether it's stood on a sphere, the circle of vision will always be a circle as you rotate around, because the circle of vision is created by the lens. It's not created by the topography or the nature of the surface at all. The circle is created by the fact that you've got a lens, and the center point is where you see the furthest. So to turn around, that's the furthest point. That'll create a circle. Whether, irrespective of the surface, how you adjust for the surface is different, but you're always going to get that circle of vision. So they've mixed that and they've switcherooed it with trying to say that the justification is within the orthographic view. So the only way, the only figure which looked at from any external point is bounded by a circle. It's easier to see on there, but still draw circles on a flat plane. But that's the switcheroo for me. And very normal.
Adam, wait until Nathan shows you the next one. So Nathan, I wanted to see if there was another one that would say the same thing. So go to the next slide I put up. Tell me when it's on the screen.
Yep, it's up.
Okay, 152. On all sides, as we see a circle of land or sea or both, on which the sky seems to rest, everyone, listen up. This is called the sensible horizon. Hang on which the sky seems to rest, on land or sea, where the sky meets the earth, apparently. This is called the sensible horizon.
Hold on. That's not what this last diagram shows. The sensible horizon floating in mid-space.
Yeah, exactly. So when I say I find contradictions, you'll see, because Adam pointed it out, and it gets pointed out here. When he doesn't use a mountain, he uses the mast of a ship. Continuing on. If we observe it from a little boat on the sea or from a plane, this circle is small. So there he puts the plane. But if we look out from the top of a ship's mast or from a hill, remember, a previous one was a mountain, we find it largely increased. In fact, the higher we go, the more the horizon extended. Well, yeah, that's normal. Always, however, retaining its circular form. Now, the sphere is the only figure which looked at from any external point. There they go, sticking it in, is bounded by a circle. That's not true. And the horizons of all places are circular, and the Earth is a sphere, or at all events nearly so. And then he goes on to talk about the North Pole, South Pole. See, they're stuck in this, begging the question that I've got to explain what my eyes show me, but I've got to make sure I'm on a globe rather than taking the assumption out before they start.
I'm just going to do a couple of quick super chats. Sorry, guys. Shout out to Godzilla37, who says, Devil's Advocate is offering free tickets to Narnia in the chat. Just leave your brain at the counter for yours. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Godzilla37. And there was another one as well. Let's see if I can find that. Oh, where's the other one gone? There it is. The Price of Adam says, your globe books are our flat earth evidence. Yeah, that's the point that was made right at the beginning of this little section, Adam. So yeah, what 10th is saying is none of them are flat earth books. They're all alluding to be from the perspective of a sphere, and at various stages of the book they'll say, oh yeah, and you're still on a sphere. Here's a bent line meeting a straight line at 90 degrees.
Shout out to Eli. He's been saying that begging the question is the worst of all fallacies.
Yeah, you're indoctrinated from birth. You're indoctrinated from birth to believe you're on a sphere, therefore begging the question's an acceptable fallacy for them. Yeah. Go on, Adam.
That's why this sentence stuck out to me twice now, the same thing. So we're going through factual stuff, what we're doing, fair enough. But why do we need this little bit of rhetoric? Now, the sphere is the only figure. Now, again, why do we need to put it like that? And then put it with false. I'm trying to get the right word, but it's a false justification, isn't it? Now the sphere is the only figure which looked at from an external point. Well, who cares? A, it's wrong, and who cares? Because that's not how we're seeing. We're not seeing orthographically to have that any validity. And even if it did, we can take a plane, as you say in the first bit, where it says on a small. If we observe it from a little boat on the sea or from a plane, this circle is small. But it's still a circle, isn't it, on the plane? But they're trying to make out that the circle's only visible because the surface is a ball. That's incorrect. But I'd say it's interesting that they put the same bit of rhetoric in twice.
Well, what I find about the whole thing is that it seems to be an ongoing trend now, where whether it be from a book that's claimed to be science, from a book about celestial navigation, or from any other source, as long as they keep telling each other that it's a sphere, then that's good enough. That's why Ruhif would point out where it says the Earth is rotating on this page. So that means it must be rotating because this man said it was. And this man can point to someone else who's saying the same thing. And someone else can point to a different person in a different book or source saying the same thing. But absolutely none of them have any evidence for any of this complete and utter horse manure.
Right, it's
But
good
they're
enough.
all-
Finding it in a
that's-
book to affirm their bias is good enough, Brian. You know what's better?
Yeah.
Just because you've mentioned it, I'm sorry to interject. Someone asked the other day, well, what's his motivation for trying to convert me? Well, because good enough is talking amongst themselves or finding affirmation bias in a book that's demonstrating how flat Earth angles are used because it says the Earth's a sphere at some point on page 87. That's good enough. Better is have your opponent, John, tell you how it's a globe. Well, that's miles better. You know, the pain relief that Ranty Flat Earth provided to them must have been amazing, man. It must have been like taking heroin.
I don't think I told him it was love at any point. You know?
We covered the R value question. We've got over 100 people watching. Please share the show if you're watching. Thank you very much to all of you. Smash the share button regularly, and I know you do. So, yeah, that's the reason we've got over 100 people watching, and it'd be nice to have more. So please share the show if you've not done so already. Very warm welcome to all of you who've just joined us. Any evidence of the R value, just because we've covered it so
Hang on,
much?
Nathan, we're not done yet.
Oh, we're not?
No. Go to the next slide, please. But this is going to be chow time for us.
Increase the pain, Tent.
Oh, I'm going to increase the pain.
Globe stomping.
Okay.
I love it.
Ready when you are.
Distance of the horizon. On a flat world, there would be no difference between the visible and sensible horizon.
Wow, look at that.
However, on Earth, the visible horizon appears several arc minutes below the sensible horizon due to the opposing effects. Interesting. Didn't the astronomy guy say they all touch the surface of the Earth?
Yes.
What's going on here?
I've got to object.
Why would you even have to include that first statement?
Because
Well, I want to hear. I want to hear Adam's objection.
Go on, Adam.
That's exactly it, because it's a lie, isn't it? On a flat Earth, there would be no difference between the visible and sensible. Yes, there would. As you increase in height, the angle to the deck will change. That's how it was initially calculated. Okay, so this is a poisoning the well fallacy to imply that we do not take optics and perspective and height of eye into account, that it's not necessary on a flat plane. It's totally necessary. It's the purpose of height of eye.
So Brian's right. They are lying.
Well, this is why I catch the contradictions, whether they be books or articles or navigation sidestep people who are expert at using the sextant, an angle measuring device that could only work on a flat plane, by the way. But this is the reverse of the astronomer who showed the picture depicting the opposite way. So they flipped it here.
Well, I'm sitting at a table that's a horizontal. Underneath that table is a floor that's another horizontal. And there is a visible difference between the two.
Well, if you look at the illustration, good one there, Brian, but if you look at this illustration to the right, and you go back to the one of the mountain in the astronomy book, the sensible horizon should be touching.
Well, just before you go back, go to the bottom of the page and look at the formula. 2.08 times the square root of the observer's height. Well, that's not R, is it? That's not a geometric. That's not even a 7/6 R adjusted. That's not ball geometry, that ratio. We know the black swan.
Hold on. What's going on here, Adam? I hadn't spotted that. Hold on, good spot. But I don't. Yes, that's not ball ratio. Why? I know you're asking rhetorically, but I'm now asking seriously. Why isn't it? This has got ball on it.
Exactly. So if it was meeting to an adjustment to a geometric horizon, then we'd know that the height of eye would be a function of the adjustment would be a function of that and the R value, which would give us the black swan, 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet is the intersection of the geometric curve. If we're using it, but that's not doing that, is it?
They're referencing reality there. They're not adding in their atmospheric refraction. This is after atmospheric refraction. They're trying to somehow reference a reality.
Maybe the next slide would help, Adam.
I just want to state what they keep on leaving out in all of these diagrams is the other parts of the depression angle that they're creating.
What, from their zenith?
All of these are depression angles. What's a depression angle? An angle down to another line that's a horizontal back to its source. That's a depression angle.
It is.
Two straight lines.
All it is a depression angle from the observer's eye, which would create the reference line to like a horizontal reference line, and you're looking down. That's a depression angle, and that's all that is.
Except you're not really looking down, you see, because the horizon rises to eye level. What you're doing is there's the adjustment between that little bit of down.
It's just height of eye.
Yeah,
it's just height of eye.
And that's exactly what it is. It's just that height of eye, and as Brian describes it, that depression angle. But it's not a geometric depression angle. Remember, it's because we're not doing this orthographically. We're doing it through the lens, through the eye. So it's that differential of the height of eye above the deck and how that slightly adjusts that depression angle for you to define a level. Yeah, when you're looking at the right, that's all it is. But it's not a geometric function. It's an optical function based on height of eye above the flat deck.
Not in these maths, it isn't. This is orthographic. Hello, Paula.
I know.
Hello.
But look again, 1.92 this time.
But that's why they're using. But that's why the Mariner sextant uses the horizon, so it can describe the vertex coming down to the surface of the water. That's the whole point of it. Otherwise, why would they? The whole point of using it is for that reason.
Yes, that's correct, because we've only got one horizon, and that's what you're looking at in the horizon mirror. But as on screen now from Andrew Thomas Young, H being the marked position of their claim to be refracted horizon, it doesn't have a straight line to it. You can't get any angles from it.
Just look at it. All of that calculation is geometric. Yeah. There's nothing. It's perspective hijacking. Yeah. Remember where the data's coming from. It's coming from a source that has perspective, and yet it's described, as orthographic. All of the data, it can't be. Yet you can mishmash the two and paint that perspective data off as orthographic Earth curve, just like they do with the calculators. That's all that's going off here.
I can only assume.
Plus all his refractive curvature, all his refractive calculations were done on a plane surface.
Indeed. I assume you've joined for a reason. You typically only have a purpose in joining, Paula.
Yes, I do. All these days, Phil is in the chat saying, the almanac has refraction in it. The almanac has refraction in it. So I looked it up, and I found that the first thing I found, I mean, it's easy enough to find this information about problems in navigation and how they have to deal with refraction. But it's refraction, they're assuming where the location of a star is because light from space hits the atmosphere and bends a little. What we're all talking about that he's confusing this with is refraction along the ground due to atmospheric conditions, which would be impossible to put in an almanac. So it's just so glaring I had to join example of how he misunderstands what's in an almanac and what refraction they're even talking about.
Refraction tables are crucial for celestial navigation. They recognise that if we've got loads of thick air to look through, it will have an effect, which is why it advises to try and get a fix from stars above 20, because you're not going to have to really adjust at all.
I want to dumb down what you both just said. So what Paula's saying is, in the almanac, it suggests that you should correct if below 20 degrees, which is what Adam's clarified, for stellar refraction.
Yeah.
Now what?
Just
go on.
Just to add to that, the point, those tables are there, but they in no way. And this is travelling below 20 through the air, the atmosphere, however you want to describe it. That would be subject to 7/6R. Yeah, it should be. It's got to travel through that air. But these tables in no way have that kind of adjustment. Okay, they're very minute differences that are there And they're basically adjustments, back calculated adjustments on where the stars should be. And they notice all the stars are where they should be above certain altitudes, but at certain things and with certain humidities in that, then through practical experience, they've done some tables that you're best off making an adjustment if it's really humid like this and it's at 14 degrees, kind of tweak it by this much. These are done through practicality of where the star should be, yeah, and these adjustments, but they're not accurate because they can't be accurate. But fundamentally, what they're not adjusting for is a 7/6 refraction.
I can tell you what they are adjusting for. That the model, the celestial sphere model, is flawed. We don't see that at 20 degrees and below, or we don't see a celestial sphere. So they have to take the sky we do see and bend it to match that model. But it's still a flat plane model.
Well,
it's still trouble for them.
The thing is that Phil is always talking about a horizontal refraction, or vertical in the sense it's sticking around the ball, where light from a distant building or mountain is curving around the surface of the ball. That is not the kind of refraction the almanac is dealing with. And in this article from 2012, it says refraction of light as it enters the atmosphere is still one of the largest uncertainties in celestial navigation. So that isn't even the same problem. He thinks that we're talking about, that the almanac is talking about stuff we see along the ground that we see too far that is refracted over the edge. And he's saying, see, that refraction is in the almanac, but it's not. It's where the location of the star is.
That's correct, Paula, 100%. What's going on is Phil and all the rest of them. And Ruhif knows better, but he's been confusing as many people as possible on this. What they're doing is they're equivocating between real and actual celestial refraction, which is a downward correction because the star or whatever appears higher in the sky than it actually is. They're equivocating between that and their 7/6R, which they're adding in for a dip correction. The current dip correction is 7/6R correction, right? But that just corrects from a mathematical geometric horizon that nobody sees up to the real world, basically, the real horizon, the real world. So when they talk about refraction and think it has something to do with a globe, they're equivocating between the current dip correction, right, which is a mathematical correction to a geometric horizon that doesn't exist, from there up to reality, basically, right, which is an up. And then but then they don't bother talking about, and the proof of this is, look at Ruh's presentation, there wasn't a mention about height of height correction, because he equivocated at that point between height of height correction and their 7/6R dip correction. It's an equivocation. That's what's going on there. But then they want to take this and claim that's the refraction that they're talking about in the almanac. They're not. They're the real refraction that's always been in all almanacs, that they've always referenced.
Okay,
exactly
you've said it twice. I've got to stop you. I've got to stop you. You're correct. Brian's right. So he's saying it's the other way. The refraction that's being corrected for goes the opposite direction. That's the
I'm
first
trying
thing.
to get to that point.
Well,
I'm getting there.
I know, but I just want to correct you on one thing. So
I know no, I'm about to say what you're saying.
You don't know that. I'm going to say that it's not refraction. What we're calling refraction might be labelled refraction in the almanac. It isn't. That's just what it's been called. Now, what we're describing in reality is the fact that as the stars, from your position, get closer to the horizon, they slow down. Now, I suspect, and this is why I interrupted you rather than anybody else when they said the same thing, including Paula, is because I suspect, and you suspect, Brian, that this is an effect of perspective. Now, in terms of where we say it should be, if we account for that in a linear perspective fashion, I would assume that that would be enough of a correction, because it doesn't move around a protractor in a way that it would if it was attached to the outside edge of a physical dome as the light moved around it. That doesn't tally. But we have a linear relationship, which would mean that as it reaches the horizon, it does, in fact, and apparently, slow down its movement as it reaches the horizon. That's what the correction's for. Now, that slowing down of the star as it reaches the horizon has been called refraction. Does that mean it is? No. Nobody's showing me that that's because light from space is bending as it reaches a sphere-shaped air. That's what they're calling it, though.
It's the law of halves, isn't it?
Sorry.
Oh, right. It's the law of halves in terms of perspective, because it keeps halving and halving as you go into the distance, which will create a little bit of a curve and a slowing down of it disappearing.
Thank you, Adam. I just don't want everybody to say, well, because it's called refraction, well, refraction's refraction, right? Well, it doesn't matter. It's just what rate we say our refraction is, and this rate might be different to 7/6 of a radius, but it's still based on the radius and the atmosphere. No. Why is this effect of the star slowing down towards the horizon, which I suspect would be a perspective description in terms of the linear rate that you would observe, called refraction? Well, because they've probably hijacked perspective again. Shout out to Mike808 for the super chat.
We did it on, I think it was Ballbusters, or no, it must have been a Ballbusters, maybe a QE Live. But QE was giving a quote, refraction, from one of the guys. And the first bit, as always, is correct, except he used the word refraction. And I said, I'd have no objection. If you use the word raspberries or solar move, star shifts close to the horizon, then there's absolutely no problem with it. It's the fact that they try to ascribe this incorrect positioning, to as refraction. That I have.
I've got to do it to you now. I'm sorry to interrupt you guys with these corrections. To be pedantic, where they should be. What Adam means by where they should be is where we expect them to be when they curve around the arc of a protractor, labelled as being the projection of a perspective view, but actually the celestial sphere. Or when you calculate it at a rate at a perfect circle from your position, it doesn't match. Therefore, when it slows down, it's not above where you measure it to be in terms of where it actually is above. So where it actually is, that's where somebody could be stood with the star directly above their head. Doesn't match because it's slowed down its position when you take an angle measurement towards the horizon, therefore giving you an inaccuracy. That doesn't mean the star isn't where it should be. It just makes my skin crawl.
Can I?
Sorry, yeah. But that's the point of the correction, because you're trying to get where it is actually. And you know where it actually is because of the celestial sphere model. So, it's just this recognition of the limitations again, lower down, and that's all it is. It's a recognition of limitation. I think what Brian's painting as is brilliant, because I'd not twigged before, but it's a hijacking, and that's why law of halves popped into my head. As you say, it's slowing down. That's exactly what will happen with the law of halves, won't it? Because it still will stay there.
Well, they can call it whatever they want. What's happening is a star is ending. The closer that star or anything else gets to your horizontal view, the star especially because whatever altitude it's at, it appears to be at a very high altitude, whatever that is, I don't know. But when it starts getting into your horizontal view, then you're kind of, rather than seeing it going down, you're starting to see it going away from you. So that would elongate the time. So the time between 90 and let's say 15 degrees, the time of that movement would be different from 15 down to 0 because of the altitude, of the apparent altitude of the light and how you're seeing that, because it's getting closer and closer to your horizontal view. And that's why things become, someone's off mute there. That's why things become difficult. That's why your horizon exists. It's not just the fraction, it's because everything is in your horizontal view. Well, it is the fraction because things move away, but they're in your horizontal view. So you don't have an angle to look at them at. Your angle is 0, if you understand, once they're in your horizontal view. The point I was making about what I was saying was that the actual correction, call it what you want, the actual correction is a correction down for if that star kept doing what it was doing before 15 degrees above the horizon. It's a downward correction for where the star would be if we didn't have this visual issue, right? Whereas what the ballers are claiming is an upward correction. And they're equivocating between the two, hijacking the real correction for their mathematical correction. That's what they're doing.
Gotcha.
So how can they have a downward correction when their correction is up? Well, yet they'll just throw it out there as just refraction.
No, that's perfect. But the inaccuracy, as John's just pointed out, is down to an inaccuracy in terms of how a depiction of something that curves around you in the celestial sphere model. So you've got the curve of it over the top of you off a flat plane being observed. Well, if that's your view of the stars, their relationship will be what would it be, a squared function, Adam, as it goes round from your view? If you project up the protractor you're holding as being the stars as you draw lines out to them, would the rate be a squared function as it dropped towards the horizon? Am I wrong?
No, it's not. Well, I think that's what Brian's probably alluding. Not squared, but it would be a linear function as it's moving. But that's what he's saying. As it gets below that point, that linear function changes. So they slow down. So they hold
on. You're saying it is a linear rate until the horizon, and if it was purely perspective, it would continue to be linear. Hold on. It shouldn't ever be linear if you're moving around as you twist on a globe. Where they hijack, let's just put aside for a second that they can't get an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline. What they give us back is that your position has moved 1 degree along the circle, as opposed to you're measuring 1 degree of drop in the sky off a flat plane, which is what you're actually doing. Right? You're twisting your position around the circle as you move back. Yeah, you've dropped around the circle. Just give me some sort of affirmation that you're with me so far. Yeah. Okay. Well, if that's the case, why would that give you a linear drop as you moved around?
That would be that's the same. It's the same for both, because that linear change, 60 nautical miles per minute, is the same in both, because it's just
in the description it is, but in terms of what you would actually observe, I'm almost convinced I'm right in this regard. As you twist your position round and look at something descending in the distance, wouldn't it increase its rate of descent as you edged ever closer to the physical obstruction, i.e. their globe Earth horizon in orthographic view? I'm saying the rate shouldn't be linear.
But it's an angular change.
No, because
that ends up being elongated.
Hold on, just let me see if Adam's picking up what I'm putting down, because I don't know if he is yet.
If it held a real position, yes, it would, because the rate of curve would come in to play, wouldn't it, in terms of a truck? But it doesn't. It holds a position in infinity, doesn't it?
No, not in their model it doesn't. In their description with celestial navigation it does. But what I'm saying is, what they observe of their physical bodies at a position above the ground when you measure it is irrelevant to their description of twisting you round at 1 degree on a protractor. Because what you'd actually see if you were moving back as their description over the curve backwards, and every 69 miles you traverse, or you just wait for the stars to move towards the horizon, either way is just as good on their model, because it's the same effect, isn't it?
No,
but I'm saying
no, I got it. Yeah, okay. So you're not moving, you're not applying cumulative curvature, are you? Your horizon stays the same, and you move. So it's just you rotating with the same horizon. So the R value doesn't move. Once it's defined geometrically, there's your horizon. Then the relative positions stay relative as the ball rotates. So with the star map in infinity. So no, it wouldn't.
No, that would only apply in an orthographic representation where the value that you're seeing stays the same as you turn on the protractor. But what I'm saying is, what you would actually see if you were moving backwards, the representation of what would happen as it reached the horizon would, I would suggest, increase as it reached the horizon, as the rate that the curve creeps up towards it as you back away from it and the curve comes up, from your view, would increase the rate the stars would drop towards the horizon. It would not be linear and then slow down.
No, because the curve's not changing. The curve's just a wall blocking your view at this point. So the relative positions between you, the curve, and the stars doesn't change, only the relative angle.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The relative angle decreases.
No, but only the angle of you viewing, because it's this whole. So you and the obstruction are fixed, and they're both are rotating together. So all you've got is that plane rotate. There's no variance of R to thing. It's just the obstruction.
No, but in reality, I can tip my head. if the suggestion is that the item's reaching then breaching the physical limitation that's below me, if I'm stood at the top of the hill in your example, so in the depiction on screen you're saying I'm at C, and the line up towards A is the line up towards the star. I'll just pause this so we don't lose it as an example. Hold on a second. And you're saying that... Oh, damn. Just in time. As I twist the ball itself in its entirety with me at C, you're saying that the line I hold moves up as the position that's going to be the star at A moves down as I go backwards. Now, you can suggest that, but what I'm suggesting is that that line between C and A, we're going to call A the star, is going to decrease as I go backwards, as it reaches the horizon. Now, you're saying the line in geometric terms in Muppet Vision, no, the line can stay with you, and you just look further and further back as it reaches the horizon, right? You're tipping back further and further on your ankles. Now, I realise relativity and all the rest of it, let's just leave that out. But I'm saying that in literal terms, my view from C has A move down as I move back. Well, that lowers the line at an increasing rate as I go further back. It doesn't maintain this horizontal... what would it be? It would be a tangent plane, would it not, in this diagram? Why do I maintain the tangent plane from my perspective view in reality? I wouldn't. It would increase as it reached the horizon.
The stars, if C goes back, the whole clock turns at the mountain, A, everything, which means that A goes, the line comes higher up, goes towards 12 o'clock more. As the whole thing rotates around. The whole thing's rotating, remember. So all that happens is, as you rotate, your line of A moves further away from the star would drop, and you wouldn't see it because the mountain's blocking it if C to A was the initial line. But as you then rotate, the star would drop below that, below the horizon, and the line C to A would be in front of the star now.
Yeah, but you're still describing the same thing, aren't you? You're describing me maintaining that tangent plane at C as I rotate then.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna have to agree to disagree, because I can't move out of their orthographic view to make my argument when I describe it from my positional seeing it rotating on a sphere, because that is not how it's described in their maths. So I'm going to lose eventually. I know I am. So I'm going to agree to disagree at this point.
Well, something just quickly on it before you finish is the drop rate of Polaris, which is the first drop rate that they would have detailed. The drop rate of Polaris is no different than the drop rate of the other stars. But on their model, the other stars are dropping due to us being brought backwards and down, whereas Polaris is about us actually moving, and not the rotation of a globe, us moving up or down that globe. But yet the drop rate is exactly the same. There's no difference in Polaris's apparent drop rate or rise rate.
Hold on a second.
There would be a difference.
Go on, John.
There would be a visual difference, I'd say.
You're going to get the last words on the live show, John. Go ahead.
We're allowing them a seat at the table by acting like the celestial sphere model is somehow their model. We're not talking about going over a curved surface anymore. It's a flat plane celestial sphere model, and it does not correspond to what we see. We make adjustments for what we know about the angle to the stars above a certain degree to match that model, which is a flat plane model. They have no dog in this race anymore.
With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the thanks and PayPal button, all that good stuff. And another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Programming stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a day! What a lovely day!
Not you, John.
No, I think John was touching his mic. It might have been him.
You can draw lines to curved lines, right? You can get angles to curved lines, and that's calculus. You can determine those curve functions with those straight lines. They were trying to say you could get angles from curved lines. It's that slight twisting of the differential between to and from.
Hold on a second. Just one sec, Adam. Just one sec. Are you drumming the desk with your mic on it, John?
No, I'm probably getting mad and getting too close to it.
Oh, okay. I could just hear some bassy noise. It sounded like you were tapping the desk or something as you were talking. Go ahead, Adam. I'm really sorry.
It's just to find. Like I said, I'm just trying to find out what they were talking about because it bugs me. But if you're going to use calculus, the point of calculus is to use straight lines as an approximation to a curve, and the more straight lines you use, the closer it gets to a curve. But in doing so, you create a straight line. And that was my confusion when they said, oh, well, you should be able to do this using calculus, which you can. But you're not actually, it's still fake in terms of the angle you create. It's not really relative to the curve. It's to the point of the curve that you decide to make the intersection of, which is an approximation. But to make that approximation, you have to turn the curve into a straight line. You have to make it.
That's the trick, though. They're mixing up the word to and from. I said you couldn't get an angle from a curved line. They're talking about getting angles to curved lines. They are either liars. They're either liars or morons.
No, I thought they were different there. That's what I thought the sort of difference was. They were trying to claim you can, which technically you can do stuff like, say, you can use calculus, but if you're going to use calculus, you have to accept that calculus is going to turn that curved line into a straight function so you can calculate it. Do you get me? So, and even then, it's nonsensical in of itself because it's not to the curve; it's to a point on the curve. Do you get me?
Right, it's a straight line to a point on a curve, but not from. It's not an angle from a curve.
No. Well, it's from it if you use calculus, but it's a point on the curve, but it's still not on from the curve, is it? Because it's from a point on the curve, which is just, but in doing that, it's an approximation of the function of the curve, isn't it? In calculus, so you use the function of the curve to calculate it. But I think fundamentally, you're still making it a straight line to do your calculation, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah, you have to have the straight lines to get angles.
What is going on with your mic? There's either something wrong with your mic, John, because every time you're talking, there's this really bassy noise. I don't know what it is. Something's going wrong, or you're touching it, or it's brushing against something, but it's just driving me nuts.
What it is during the debate, Ruhif invoked a tangent plane constantly, but never mentioned the term tangent plane, if I remember right, not even one time. He had to invoke a tangent plane because this process can't be done on a curved surface. So it doesn't matter what nonsense he came up with, he was constantly invoking a tangent plane, and he knew he was, and he was doing it without mentioning the term tangent plane. That's why he brought in the term calculus, because that's an angle to a curve. So an angle to a curve, what's that going to be then? The baseline of that angle is going to be a horizontal. What's that then? It's a tangent plane, in Euclidean geometry. Where a straight line touches a circle at one point.
Yeah, Brian, he was saying you don't need a baseline to get an angle. And the whole topic was elevation angle does require a baseline because an elevation, what's the elevation above? And so he stayed away from that. And he just kept saying, well, I don't need a baseline to get an angle. But he wasn't talking about the same thing that sextant operators must do, which is use the horizon and get a perpendicular to it. So to get an altitude or elevation angle, it requires a baseline. He was just talking about what Nathan said the other day. He could just put his arms up in the air and create an angle, but that wouldn't be an elevation angle.
Well, that's exactly it, Tent, and that's what I was thinking the minute he was saying this. So he was asking John, with his using the theodolite diagram, the orthographic one. He was saying, see, that there's a horizontal and a vertical, but the horizontal has nothing to do with the surface of the Earth. For a start, he's incorrect about that, because the distance that's being measured is a horizontal distance. So when you try and put that onto the arc of the sphere that it will have covered over the arc of the sphere, the distances won't match. So he's wrong straight away on that, but that's a sidebar. But I just want to put that out there. He's completely wrong on that.
But not only that.
Yeah, but
go finish.
One second. Yeah. What he was talking about is, can I stand on the surface of a sphere and create a 90-degree angle? Yes, you can take two pencils and create a 90-degree angle in front of your eyes while standing on a sphere. But can you use that 90-degree angle for an angular size measurement or an elevation angle on the surface, using the surface or from a sphere or from a globe Earth model? No. You must be on something that has a horizontal 0 degrees baseline to use those to create to use that 90-degree angle for an angular size measurement or an elevation angle. You can't use angular size measurements or elevation angles on a sphere. Go on.
Didn't we say a while ago this was one of their okie dokes, talking about angles to a curve as opposed to angles from a curved line?
Yes, we have said that. You've said that. We've all said that. But here's the other problem.
No, that's my point on this one.
Okay, I'll wait.
That's my point. They're making the claim that you can using calculus.
All right. Let me say what I was going to finish with.
Sorry, I'm really sorry, Ted. I'm so sorry. You can. So they can do it that way. Is that how it's done by celestial navigators with calculus, or do they just measure a flat Earth elevation angle by using the horizon?
That's step 2, yeah. That's the second point that they don't.
When they say, sorry, I just want to get this clear. When they say they can do it with calculus, their argument is therefore with celestial navigation who don't.
Yes, but even if you do calculus, you turn that curved line into a straight line to be able to do it.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say. It doesn't matter what way they say they can do it. They have to create a horizontal plane that stretches the length that it needs to stretch, or it'll be hundreds or thousands of miles to do the thing. So it's an admission that they can use the curved surface of their globe.
Okay, 10th. I think we've all got it out now. Can we all just clear the airways for 10th? Please don't interrupt in this time. Thank you. Go ahead, 10th.
Okay. Well, that's the tangent plan. Okay, but here's the point I was going to make. When you listen to that debate, they never referred to the sextant and the sextant operator at sea. They always referred to a plumb bob and a theodolite. Now, what ship has a theodolite and plumb bob, or do they have a sextant?
They have a sextant.
Okay, so then what is the horizon mirror on the sextant supposed to be pointing to?
The horizon.
Ooh, can I take a guess? The horizon?
Good one. Okay, so then the angle above the horizon is measured. Now they say, yeah, but I can do that with a plumb bob. I don't need the horizon. I could just get a 90-degree angle with a plumb bob. I go, fine, what's your reference? Perpendicular, horizontal meeting my plumb, which is my zenith. Once I establish my zenith, which you can't do at sea with a plumb bob because too much movement. Okay, so you got a 90-degree angle with a horizontal with a plumb bob on land, but at boat you don't have the advantage of motion-free measurements. So what do you use? A sextant. What do you aim at? Horizontal. What's dip? Get your eye to the level of the water. Oh, there's my horizontal. There's my 90.
Yeah, you're correct. You're correct to your horizon. Not away from the horizon. You're correct to your horizon.
Can we have perpendicular and parallel lines on the globe?
Hold on, I want to do a correction to the calculus.
Shh, don't say 90.
It's perpendicular and parallel to what? Can you be you can be perpendicular to a tangent on a ball. You can be
No. Perpendicular to a plumb bob dropped in space. That's perfectly acceptable.
You what, mate?
Perpendicular to the plumb bob, you can just drop it out in space anywhere you like. It doesn't have to be in relation to the ground.
No, that's exactly it. Everything is perpendicular or plumb to the flat surface of which we are going to do the navigating on. And miss the qualifier, what is perpendicular to, what is parallel to. The thing that we're going to navigate on, the purpose of what we're doing this for is to navigate the surface. So the parallels, the plumbs, are all in relation to the surface. Can't have a parallel to it.
Yeah, I told him that. I walked him through it, and he still didn't get it. But in calculus, right, you can use a known curve to derive a function to turn that curve into a straight line to get angles.
I can hardly hear what he's saying. Is it just me with John?
No, it's his mic. If he's not touching it, if it's not rubbing on something, he needs a new mic.
Something's going on with your mic where it's going really quiet, then all we're hearing is this bangy bass noise, and then we hardly hear what you're saying. I really want to hear you talking to today. Sod's law.
Well, maybe he can switch.
You're just realizing that that's what his mic is doing. It's been doing it for weeks.
I always blame you, Neil.
No, it hasn't. Not like this.
It's extreme today, yes, but I've been hearing it every time he speaks. And I like when John speaks.
Well, that's good to know.
Is this better?
Yes. Well, for the few words you said, it was.
Give us a full sentence.
Oh, my God. And what I was going to say is that you can use calculus to define a known curve into a straight line. If you take that straight line and get an angle, did you get an angle from a curve or a straight line?
Correct, John. That's my point.
Perfect. A different kind of awful, but we heard you better.
Yeah.
It wasn't buzzing, though.
Now it's not. Now it's not. It's just crackling of his voice. It's no longer like mic interruption.
Yeah, that's better.
Loud awful's better than quiet awful, though. So
I agree. I can hear what he's saying. It doesn't matter that it's got a bit of roughness to it, as long as we can hear what he's saying, which we can now. Whatever you did, thank you.
That long. Sorry.
Must sound refracted.
To get it back on. That long protracted point to get that out was again, look. They're attacking John, trying to have a go at him with again a false representation, a lie that when you bother to look into the detail of what they've attacked him on, it undoes their argument again. It supports our argument. But I think they were trying to play on ignorance there because I didn't pick up what they were trying to do because you can't get angles without straight lines. I say once again, another lowly tactic where, like I say, investigate it properly. We're right, and actually the evidence supports our side and viewpoint.
Because if their tactics had worked at the end, what they would be celebrating is, look how we can get elevation angles off the curved line instead of, oh, look, he's got degrees, but he lied about it.
Yep.
Clowns.
To the left of me, and guess who's to the right?
Clowns.
But what it was
Clowns to the left of me, Jokers to the right. Hang on.
Quasimodo.
It's Jokers.
There you go. So it's clowns to the left of me, Jokers to the right. Here I am stuck in the middle of you. So
steal his wheel.
With you. That's the most relevant to me saying they're in the same pond as us. We're stuck in the middle. They're in the same pond. Clowns to the left of us, Jokers to the right.
They're locked in here with us.
See, people say I lack substance.
Cutting the guy's ear off.
I can't join in and
we're
give
not
my,
locked in
my
with them.
input to
They're
the show.
locked in with us.
They hear you. They hear you. They both hear you.
QE is trying to speak.
I hear you now, so I'm shutting up.
You don't have to shut up. I just wanted it. My input for the show today is Jokers. I could. Hey, 10th. I couldn't get off mute fast enough, man. I was like, wait, I know the answer to that. I'm trying to find the mute button.
Well, you would. You love the 60s music.
Yeah.
Their whole debate the other night was all based around Nathan stating that you can't get an elevation angle from a curved surface. It was all about equivocation of that and misrepresentation of that very precise statement, and trying to show how you could stand on a curved surface and create a 90-degree angle with your fingers or something. Who cares? You can't use that 90-degree angle for anything on that curved surface.
Oh, Nathan came up with that? Wow.
You can't in the heliocentric model. You can't use that 90-degree angle for angular size change because there is no angular size change. You can't use it for an elevation angle because that requires the baseline to be horizontal. You can't, whatever elevation angle you try and do with it wouldn't mean anything because the measurements won't match the curved surface. That's what I said earlier. You're measuring a horizontal distance. That horizontal will not match the arc that resides under it in distance. They're idiots.
The way they get around that in the manuals that Tenth is presented is they draw an arc with a straight line simultaneously occupying the same space and a 90-degree meeting the straight line. And they're just like, yeah, we get a 90-degree from a straight line. Here's a straight line and a curved line, so you can retain your sphere belief.
Yeah, but the distance they measure, this is what they don't understand. They don't understand, like when Ruhif was stating it, I think, in the other night, is that zenith, he's at least stated it publicly somewhere, the zenith distance is a curved distance. No, the curved part is the representation in orthographic of the angle. Zenith distance is a horizontal. And why is zenith distance a horizontal? Because that zenith distance gives you your horizontal distance between the observer and the GP of the celestial body in nautical miles. And what does that become, Kent man? The radius of a circle of equal altitude.
Yeah,
they don't know what they're talking about. Sorry.
Well, you've explained it before. The arc measurement over a fictitious curve is longer than the radius of a circle of equal altitude. It's a chord.
Yeah, Ruhif was basically saying that you can, basically saying publicly that you can just, from a central point, the GP point, you can just send a line out 1,000 miles in all directions, and it'll all just match. It all matches the real coordinates. Yeah, what he's describing is a circle, and those lines are the radius of that circle, which is two-dimensional, which is straight lines. But he's trying to equivocate between that. He literally stated on that thing up that he said to Bev, on Bev's, he literally stated that the lines that he's talking about are curving over the arc of a sphere to that circle.
Yeah,
he's literally claiming a curved radius.
I'll put up an image. We've seen it before, and we've even had a caller come in and say, "Yeah, that's exactly how we get it." And you're going to laugh when you see it. So I'll be right back.
Is Paula still around? Paula, you out there? Did she leave?
I don't see her.
She's in G Plus still, but I spoke to her and I think she must be away from her mic.
She came in and brought up a really good point, something that we've talked about before, but still a really good point. And you guys, it was just blown over. You're like steamrollers, right? You steamrolled down the 5 or 6 other channels. She brought up a really good point.
Waiting for them to talk about it.
Real funny point too.
Yeah, and I point
you treated her like
months ago.
But you treated her like chopped liver. She only got a couple seconds to speak, and then boom, you guys are all off on different peripheral zenith angles and shit.
She brought it up twice.
Fair enough. You want me to go over it again?
I was
Yes,
just
I
gonna
was just
say, do
gonna
you
ask
want to
you.
go over the point again? Like,
Oh,
now that
yeah,
you brought it up.
Explain, Paula.
Yeah, because nobody knows because she got steamrolled within like 5 seconds. Yeah. The crayon munchers, we went over this a long time ago. Number one, refraction in the ball-tard paradigm, what they think refraction is, isn't refraction. They have no clue what refraction is. That's number one. Number two, they think because the word refraction is in the Naval Almanac that it's got some kind of magical powers or something, right? You see, in the Navigational Almanac, that refraction number is associated with the stars, not the horizon, not terrestrial, fairy tale terrestrial refraction. Has nothing to do with it. I also posted a table from the Naval Almanac, and it has refraction on it. It has right underneath it, it has altitude. So that, as they say, is that ball-tard morons. How high is the horizon? Yeah, at that point. So there you go. They're
You've
talking
accused
about
us of not listening to Paula. Did you not listen to anything we said through all of that? And more?
I did. I was doing something else, so it's hard for me to focus on. I'm a man. I can only
He's
do
trying
one
to
thing
white
at
knight
a
Paula.
time.
Get him.
According to QE, you mansplained.
He's went for his morning banana halfway through, so he missed that deal that we said that and referenced your show, QE, with you doing it.
Off with his head.
Yeah.
You guys didn't do too much with it. You went off on your tangents because it was real quick when you're off on different peripheral zenith angles and shit.
I felt it was very quick as well.
What are you going to do? There's tangents all over the place, right?
Yeah. We're defending John, aren't we? You've been getting unduly attacked by.
Hold on, Paula never comes in.
Cornballs?
Paula never comes in, so when she comes in, let her have the floor for at least 25 seconds.
We gave her at least 33.
You Mason?
Illuminati confirmed.
Adam, did you see I PM'd you a message? I don't think you responded.
Today?
Let me see. Thanks for the timestamp message.
Yeah.
No. Number two.
No, I'm not engaging in number two. You're a very naughty boy.
It really irks me.
What's causing that feedback? Someone in Discord's causing feedback. Can you guys in Discord, if you're not talking, can you just pop yourselves on mute?
I've sent you a thumbnail. Well, a little picture for your thumbnail. Nathan.
For me, for today's show? Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I've done it up. I just found a picture of Pounds and Jokers for you. It just needs a fed in the middle. Yeah, masturbate.
Okay, I'll have a look. I'll turn it in. I'll just put the show number on it. Thank you very much.
That's what I mean. Just where in the middle. It should just go there.
Okay.
Hey Nathan, that echo is coming from your side. I hear an echo, and I was watching Discord.
It's coming from Adam right this second.
Yep.
Try now. Try now, QE.
Try now. 1 2 radio check. 1 2 1 2.
Yeah, it was Adam.
Lost one. Lost one. This is lost 3. Are you lost 2? Over.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. There's no feedback anymore now. Adam's stopped causing it.
Over.
Over.
Over. That never took root.
It did for like a week.
No, it didn't. No, it was summarily smashed the moment. No, it didn't take for a week either. No, a couple seconds.
Yeah, as a joke,
but I was speaking about a guy who specifically came in. This is way later, and he was saying we should all say over, and he just laughed at him.
That wasn't.
Isn't that a
it-
nine?
I don't remember that. That was me. I think Nathan stamped the shit out of that quick. Over.
QE, I used to come on the show specifically to listen to you. This one I'm referring to was not you.
All right, fair enough. And thank you for that, by the way.
Pink paper, pink writing. Loved it. Very educational. Taught me everything.
That was a bit downstream from the beginning.
I came in around 670, I think.
Okay.
Any
Did that- did I just-
non-globe heretics want to tell us
I
all
got
about
that.
this magical spinning water ball we're supposed to live on?
I got that picture in
Ten-
Master B, Nathan.
Okay.
So it's pretty obvious here why they need a baseline to get a 90, but it can't be achieved on the globe. And this is what they put. And this is why that arc that Brian was talking about would be a longer distance than that straight line. And this is, imagine this over thousands of miles instead of just this little picture. It'd be a huge cord going one end of a sphere to the other. And they would never approximate within a half a mile, which is the best you can do with a sextant from what I've read. They'd be off every time. But we know that right angle triangle could only work on one surface. And that's why they love the bubble and the plumb, because they get a horizontal that gives them that straight baseline. It just can't work on their globe, though.
Paula said that's not a 90.
Paula
that
must be
line,
reading my
that
mind
GP?
because I'm thinking, say, I'm sitting there looking at this diagram. I'm sitting there. That's not a 90.
Don't give up, Paula.
Yeah, that GP is at an angle. If you draw a straight line from the center of the circle to the edge and go and extend it out into the sky, that line there from the sun to that point they have GP isn't going to hit the center of the circle. That's not 90 degrees. It's actually an acute angle.
Don't say acute.
No, but Paul is correct. Not a 90.
Every single diagram I've seen of that, where they try to do that on a surface of a sphere, you just cannot get 90 degrees when they're trying to make it from another object along the curve. I mean, you guys have already said that too, but if you draw a line, which is the definition of a radius from the center to any point on the edge, and keep extending that out into the sky, it will never work in this diagram that they got there that Ted's posted.
Well, I kept the embarrassing part for next. So go to the next slide, Nathan.
Okay.
So this is what they need. So which is more embarrassing? What they need that it can't work off of a curved surface, or the one where they put it on the curved surface and it's not 90 anymore?
What curved surface?
Uh-oh.
What curved surface would that be again?
What did I say to these things?
Shh, don't say 90.
Very
Let's
good.
see, the elevation angle has to be subtracted by what number?
90.
Shh.
What did they do when the distance is greater than the radius? Our radius, really. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. None of this works. It can't work. What actually kills them is the circle of equal altitude and height of void correction. They can wrangle around and come up with BS for other things, but they can't deal with that because
no, they can't. No. It stops with the elevation angle.
Hang on. What is the radius? And what is the radius of the circle of equal altitude?
Well, it'll stop that. Yeah, but that comes after elevation angle.
Yeah, but they can. The point. Yeah, but see, the point I'm making is, for them and their audience, they can state they're using a tangent plane, right? Which is an admittance that they can't use the surface.
No, they can't. No, they can't.
They do that. Yeah, they
well, I don't care what they do. I mean, delusional retards do a lot of things, but that's not a coherent statement with an elevation angle. Define elevation angle.
Elevation angle is a horizontal baseline and an angle taken from 90.
Horizontal plane.
The angle between the item measured in the sky, or the celestial item, and the horizontal plane the observer is standing on.
Game, set, match.
No, they actually find a way around that.
No, they don't.
No, they don't, Brian.
They
no,
use,
they don't.
yes, hang on.
You're saying, just change your term. Say they hand wave that and move on to.
Yeah. Whatever way you want to term it. The point I'm making, you're not listening to, is they get to a point where they then ignore, right, this creation of the circle of equal altitude. They ignore the size of it. And they just put it onto their globe. They completely ignore how the radius of that circle of equal altitude was actualized.
Yeah, but that's not getting around it.
Let me put this another way.
They're hand waving it.
Let me put this another way. The rate limiting step in celestial navigation for the Baltards is the elevation angle, period.
Yeah, so when you're talking about the circle of equal elevation, what's that? That's after you've measured an angle to the positional, to the star that you're getting the angle from. That's what you're going to use to get the circle equal altitude, equal elevation around that GP, right?
They'll put their elevation angle on a tangent plane, then they'll take the circle that will be created from the baseline of that elevation angle and just plop it straight onto a sphere.
Okay.
And
just stop 1 second. That's where QE jumps in and says, so you say they take their elevation angle? That's not their elevation angle, though, is it? It's ours.
Yeah, I know about the tangent plane.
So now right, so now we default to QE's position originally, which is, no, they can't, because they can't get an elevation angle. So if you say they take the elevation angle, yeah, that's the proto-thud challenge, the proto-fallacy, which is to say they whistle past the original assertion that debunks their claim to further make their claim. Well, once they've used an elevation angle, they've proven the Earth is flat. There's no moving past that. Now you're saying, well, they ignore it, hand wave it, and then start using the flat Earth elevation angle measurement to X, Y, and Z. Now I agree with you, they do. But the point QE is making must be the overriding point that people understand, because once they're there, if they go along with what you're suggesting, they've already missed the boat. They've already missed the point, which is that the angle they're using proved a flat Earth.
Yes, I don't disagree with any of those things. I was the very person that said that by them using a tangent plane, they're conceding that they can't do this process on a curved surface.
No, I agree. You said that about 2 weeks ago.
I'm talking about what these people do, which is they do use a tangent plane. They do try and skip over the elevation angle with a tangent plane, but then they try and do a second skip on the circle of equal altitude, and that's where they absolutely die. And
No,
that's
they
what
absolutely die at elevation angle. That's where we differ.
Okay, so
Well,
it's just the
according to their
terminology.
audience,
So
they
you've
don't.
got to be careful. You've got to be really careful with how you say it. Once they've died, they respawn.
I understand your point. I'm not going to argue about it. All I'm going to say is make a prediction. My point that I'm making here today will be the absolute killer blow. Not just the height of height correction.
That's incorrect.
But the circle,
That's incorrect.
a circle of equality.
Nah.
It will be down the road, the killer blow.
No, there is no down the road. It's dead at the rate limiting step.
This all just feels like you guys are a bunch of campers that are just sitting at the spawn site waiting for anti-flat earthers to pop back up into life and immediately shoot them.
No. This is what's happening here is
With the grenade
QE,
launcher.
QE and all of us, Brian included, and that's why John went on the McToon show, was the argument's over the minute they say angle. So you kill them with that argument, elevation angle. They're dead. All of a sudden, QE packs up his bag and his gun and he goes home. Meantime, the zombie woke up because you can't kill him, and then Brian shows up. And Brian says, "Ha, I'm going to kill you again with this one." And then he dies. And then Brian goes home. And then the next guy shows up. Hey, that guy that QE and Brian killed is alive again.
So it's exactly
No,
what
he doesn't wake up the second time.
So you're
spawn
saying
killing.
Brian is like Rick from The Walking Dead and shit? Just taking out the zombies.
Yeah, that's where
He
I was
doesn't wake
going
up
with
the
that.
second time.
I was going to continue on to the zombie analogy. Exactly. They've been shot in the face. They're dead. Then they rise from the dead somehow and go, "Oh, we used the angle you shot me with."
Yeah, but Brian has fighting words. He said they're not going to get up from his. They'll get up from QE's, but not Brian's.
No. The elevation angle is when they're a human and they force you to kill him. Then they rise as a zombie and the circle of equal altitude shoots them in the head and they're just a dead carcass then.
There you go.
No,
Why
they
couldn't you have
keep-
said
they
that in
keep
the
showing
first
up,
place,
though.
Brian? What's your problem?
Well, I didn't bring up all this zombie nonsense. I'm pointing out something that is going to happen in the future that QE predicts won't happen or says no. And
They
maybe
didn't
other
say
people
that.
say no.
No, he just pointed
you
out
got
that their
problem with
argument's already dead at the point that they're, as you put it, arguing about what a circle of equal elevation might or might not do. Because they've already measured an elevation angle. They've already proved Earth's flat. That's QE's point. He's not saying that they will or won't do anything or denying that that's where they'll go next when they hand wave it. He's just saying, that just so we're all clear, the argument's already dead at this point.
I absolutely agree because I am coming from a rational point of view, but we're not dealing with rational people. Look at the citations that Tent was showing earlier. You're dealing with people in general, right, who are anyway learned or have learned something, even people who are supposedly experts in the topic, who can't differentiate between reality and the heliocentric model. So we're going to be running into situations, even if it's not with the fools we deal with, we're going to be running into situations where we're going to be dealing with people, maybe like the people who wrote those citations or not citations, who gave the references Tent was given earlier, who are going to be making statements
They're never
who are not going to understand, and they won't fall down on the first one. But the second one, they'll try and get around the first one because they'll have to try to get around that. It's a psychological thing. They won't be able to accept that. But the second one, there will be no.
I will make a prediction though. Nathan, can you go to Ballbusters and pull that up? This is what's going to happen after the show. This is my prediction.
Is it people curious? Is that what you...
Ballers when the show is over in Ballbusters. Yeah, that one. Pull that up. That's what's going to happen.
That made me laugh. They're all popping their heads up.
Okay, done.
No, good point.
That's true.
I got to go here, but I just want to say, how long did we say each of us it would take for them to get the Black Swan? Have they got it?
Well, the conclusion right at the end was that the moment they actually appreciate and understand it, they have to concede that the Earth is not a sphere. So never.
Okay, so zombies don't concede. Their brains don't work. They're being kept alive by some other thing. So the whole point is that no matter what we put in front of a certain group, they'll never get it. They're just like zombies, keep coming up. But we don't worry about them. We go for the group that aren't zombies, which is the audience, and they are prevented from turning into zombies with the good arguments we give.
Perfect. With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a member, hitting the PayPal link and thanks button, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.